So in audio engineering, there's a concept called summation, and it basically just means that all of the individual signals in your track will eventually go to one place where they'll be consolidated into one individual signal. So think the mixer, anything with an individual mix fader will eventually be routed to that master basic signal flow. And in the dinosaur days, you used to have to manually do that, but you know, most digital audio workstations do it automatically. And I'm not 100% sure how analog consoles work, but I would assume they've developed a better workflow in the last 50 years. That being said, this concept also requires that you consider how the overall audio power and frequency distribution changes because you've added all those signals together. And so just like anything in audio engineering, you could yap about it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and studying it is really fun. But a pretty helpful way to think about it would be the analogy of your circulatory system. So things like these individual mix inserts would be like your capillaries. And as you get into the fully consolidated individual tracks, those are some of these bigger blood vessels like main arteries and veins. And when you start going to things like sends, buses, and returns, those would be like the really big important blood vessels like the jugular or the femoral artery, which if you don't know, the femoral artery is like the most important artery in your body. Lose that one and you're basically going to die if you're not right next to a hospital. But don't trip, it's very well protected by literally the biggest bone in our body, pause, as well as a lot of fat and muscle, which is why your hamstrings and quadriceps are so big. Anatomy and physiology lesson aside, because what the fuck. There's a few really important ways I want to show you how to use this concept in your mixing, especially if you study my style of mixing. So the first is with this stereo send that I use to add width to my 808s. So first of all, let's listen to the beat so far. And that's really knocking, but if we solo this 808 and take a look at what's going on with the stereo send, we'll see something pretty interesting. And it's that even though I have this hard cut EQ, removing low end frequencies from the 808 copy so that we're only adding those effects to the treble and mid frequencies of the new 808 signal, if we look at this second equalizer, we'll see that some frequencies are still coming through on the low end. And it wasn't until recently that I realized stuff like this in general was really muddying my mix, and I feel like listeners are definitely noticing that I've fixed it. So here's what I do. You could just add another equalizer, and that would do a pretty good job of taking care of all the low-end trash that gets reintroduced because of the effects and processing and whatnot. But what I've really been liking to do recently is just use the console EQ because it's a final touch. It makes sure that the only thing that can happen to the signal from that point on in terms of affecting the frequencies that get added or taken back out is if it's sent through a bus or if something happens on the master when it gets consolidated into that individual signal. So that being said, let's just do that and you're going to hear the difference right away. And so it still allows us to have that width and saturation on the treble. So if we bypass test it, very noticeably different. And we get that without any of doubling on the low end that's gonna just make it sound super gross and muddy our mix, make it sound trash. So from there, it's basically just taking that idea and applying it to a bunch of different places. So another thing I really like to do is equalize out the low end anywhere I can for any perks or drum sounds, so that when all the signals sum, there's as much free space as possible in the master signal for the 808 to just hit that much harder. And again, those are those subtle things that listeners are gonna feel more than they're gonna hear. So let's just take a listen and do that. Boom. You're not even gonna notice it. It's such a subtle thing. And then the next place we can do it is this drum room verb. Now the thing is, these are both presets, and as you noticed, I didn't spawn this one in EQ'd correctly, and this is because I did understand a little bit of this concept. As you can see, I do have those low end frequencies equalized out even on my Convolver. Actually, not on my Convolver, but we have like EQs doing stuff and things of that nature. So I've always understood this concept, but I never really wrapped my head totally around the fact that, oh my gosh, it's going to continue summing almost like our circulatory system does until it gets to the heart, which, dang, I just realized I didn't finish the analogy. The master fader is like your heart. W analogy, L analogy, bro, I don't know. But here's how I'm gonna tweak this one a little bit. I'm gonna move that just a little bit more so we can move that away from the main frequencies of the melody up to 500. I know I'm probably safe there. And then let's just do it one more time for this Convolver send real quick, just to make sure the melody is nice and clean and the overall mix is nice and clean. And then let's bring that 808 back in. And we can hit this melody with it too. I had it already equalized, but if you hear, it's gonna clean it up if we even just reset that and solo it. Go up to like that fundamental character, you see? Clean it up. So let's undo, let's bypass test. It's so subtle, bro. Crazy. Also, shout out No Fear for the collab. So yeah, that's your ghetto guide to summation. Questions in the comments. Follow me on Spotify. We're so close to that 5K. I want it for that Christmas gift, and I might actually get it before Halloween. I love you guys so much. I appreciate the support. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, which will probably be soon. Peace.